Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach. Today, we're excited to bring on Kaci O'Rourke, the 2024 NRHA Futurity Champion. We're excited to have Kaci on to share more about the sweat, tears, and years it took to earn this accomplishment. Congratulations, Kaci, on an incredible ride. Can you tell us what was going through your mind when they announced your whopping score of a 229 and you realized that nobody else was going to touch that?
Oh gosh. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on. It was such a surreal moment. The whole run was very it was just a weird feeling that I've never really had necessarily before in a run, but it was just a very surreal feeling. When I finished the run, I knew it was good. I was just so happy because like my horse was great. I mean, like he was with me the whole entire time and it was like an incredible feeling. I could see like my husband was over there going crazy. I could see my team going crazy. And when I looked up and I saw everybody standing, I was like, oh my God, like, was it like that good? Like, is this really happening? And I just kept thinking, is this really happening? And to be truthful, I mean, if you're competitive as an open rider in this sport, like, you dream about like that moment of, having that run in that coliseum, in that setting where it's just like everything fell together. And I had been envisioning my finals run for like weeks, ahead of time. Not that I was doing it thinking necessarily that, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do. It's more like a dream. And that moment in real life was exactly like what I had dreamed of, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like you said, the run where it felt surreal, it's probably because you had envisioned it so many times and it was lining up as to how your mind had it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, I knew that horse really well, like, I had literally felt everything of that run, like, in my mind kind of beforehand, not purposely, I'm not saying, like, I sat there and, like, tried to, like, envision it for that purpose, it's more of just, like, you sit there and you dream of, like, the moment that it might happen, and it really did, I mean, the whole thing just flowed together, I mean, it was the most incredible that's what I think raining is supposed to feel like, if you can ever experience it like that, that's what it's supposed to be. And, when it was done, I think that was really good. And I was prepared. I was like, well, if that's a 227 or whatever, I'm like, man, how cool would it be to be like second? That would be, this is all going through my head in that couple seconds. And then when they said the score, I was just like, oh my God, I just couldn't believe it, that it had actually happened to me.
Yeah, and all the fruits of your labor were rewarded right when it counted. That's
Yeah.
so when you were visualizing the run beforehand, how do you kind of break that down and go about it? Do you visualize it as if you're riding your horse and then you like feel the things that he's doing, or do you do it by watching kind of quote unquote as if you were watching yourself, or what's a visualization look like for you?
I definitely do it as if I'm like feeling like what my horse is doing. I try to go into the run in my mind, having like kind of played out the scenarios and knowing like, okay, if they do this, I'm going to do this. If he leans here, I'm going to do this. Like, kind of a control freak and I like to be really prepared. And so it's not like a super big deal that I do, but generally like the night before or something, like I'll kind of go through it in my mind and be like, okay, like I'm going to do this. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to look up. Like I'm going to do these things. I'm going to wait, talk myself through it a little bit. But it's definitely as if I'm like on him and I can feel my horse, what he's doing and what I'm going to do. And that kind of helps me too. Like in my mind, I inevitably think of the things that could go wrong. And, I prepare. So hopefully those things don't happen.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like my mind always goes there too to kind of the negative things. But the nice part is then you can come up with solutions. So when it happens, you can fix it hopefully quicker, right?
Yeah, exactly. My biggest thing with that horse that night, that shocked. It didn't shock me, but I was just so proud of him was he's a sensitive, reactive horse. And it was so loud. I mean, it was such a high energy situation and he's such a high like electric horse anyway. And I just kept waiting for him mentally to, like, leave me or to get overwhelmed, and he did not for a second. Like, There was not 1 second of that run where he questioned me, where he lost focus. I mean, the entire time he was 100% like, okay, what do you want to do next? I mean, it was just that's what reigning's supposed to be. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, that is so cool that you got to experience that then. What do you think made the difference for you and for him to be able to stay hooked in like that?
I think it's knowing each other really well. I think it's me knowing him very well and the preparation that we did. I mean, I think on one hand, I think it's a really good horse. So that, you can't really overstate that. But also, I definitely think it's the way we prepared, all the things that we kind of did throughout the season and throughout the year that kind of helped me get him ready.
What did your preparation look like?
Oh boy, how far back do you want to go? um,
Let's go back all the way to like a year.
Because you started him, right?
oh yeah, we started him. We picked him out as a yearling. I mean, obviously with all of them, especially like your good horses, right? Like your goal, I try with the Futurity especially. My goal has always been like make the finals and do the best that we can. Obviously, your goal is to go in there and win, but it is such a. I mean, this you can have the best horse, you can have everything going your way. Like it's just the stars just have to align. So like for me, I always go into it with the mentality, and especially like a year out or months out or whatever, I go into it with like we want to be in the finals on Saturday night, and we want to do the very best that we can with the horse on that day. But we started him. We picked him out of the pasture at Tamarack Ranch. They raised him in about November of his yearling year. And yeah, we started him. And I mean, he was a very extremely sensitive, reactive baby to start. I mean, he was just not bad, not mean by any sense. He was really timid, which I actually I really like that in a stud, especially. Like never aggressive, just very timid, very alert, like aware of everything. And so, my husband, he did all the work on him. I mean, he took his time with that horse and he deserves so much credit because he believed in that horse from the very beginning. And there was, times where he was, challenging and he'd say, no, this horse is going to be really good. Like I can just feel it. He's got like an amazing feel. And I didn't see it as early as he did. I mean, I loved the horse, but I mean, Jack really is the one that really saw that in him. And he would be, he's so athletic that early in his 2-year-old year, he would get in his own way. You'd start the turn and he would try to turn faster than he knew how to turn. And, so it was all in like bringing him on slow. Like we like trail rode him. We just camped out on him for a while. He never made the arena be a bad experience for him. So if he was fresh or whatever, he'd take him outside and ride him around. And then when he was quiet, he'd bring him back in the arena and finish him off there. So that always got to be like a good place. So I mean that I can't like tell you enough how I feel that was so important to him becoming the horse that he ended up being. I just think he did such a masterful job of like figuring out what kind of horse he was and how he learned and like what he needed and doing that and not trying to just like jam him into a mold. And, I mean, he was so intelligent. Like in the middle of his 2-year-old year, he started doing things really incredible, but he also started to be really cool mentally. Like when I say he was reactive, but he wasn't hot and he loped so good. Like he would lope around awesome. So, that was that's the very beginning, but like all that played into, I think we knew the horse so well the whole time that it really played into things later on.
When did you realize that winning the Futurity could be achievable for you guys? Like, was there a specific moment at the barn when you were riding around one day where you were like, "Oh my god, like we could actually do this. Like we have a shot."
Like again, I think in the fall of his 2-year-old year, he started stopping pretty cool. We had some people try to buy him then, and it was pretty clear then, like we felt he was a pretty special horse. We got home from the fraternity last year. I think I have a video of me riding him around bridleless. Like he was just super cool.
Oh.
But in like the spring, I mean, he started really stepping up and being pretty special. Like even I think around the NRBC time, so April of his 3-year-old year, I mean, he definitely was starting to stand out as one of the really nice 3-year-olds in the country of that group. But again, I never like sit there and was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna win the fraternity," because I just think it's such a. I've just seen it so much. I've seen phenomenal horses go there and it not go their way. So I think just like making him be the best he could be. I mean, obviously, we started having those little jokes of like, that horse he could win the fraternity. Like, but it's kind of a cute dream or like you know that he has the ability to. It's just whether everything kind of lines up.
Yeah, and then as a 3-year-old, you don't get to show them very many times before the futurity.
Yeah,
So,
and we really like I think this year was a great even a lesson for me, a reminder for me of how important the pre-fraternity process is. Our pre-fraternities as a sport have gotten to where there's so much added money in them. They're such big deals in and of themselves that it's really easy to lose sight of the fact that the reason we're doing them is to season our horses for the big futurity. And, my first show with him was the Invitational in August, which is 100,000 to win. I mean, it's a super big deal. It's limited because it's only horses that are eligible, only sires that are eligible for that can show in it. So half of your 3-year-old group is ineligible for it. So it's like, shoot, like he's definitely one of the favorites to win that class. I mean, I went into that one really thinking like, "Hey, we have a shot to like win this thing." And that was kind of my mistake, and that's why I didn't do that for the fraternity because I had been riding the horse a certain way the whole year, and I just approached him kind of, I didn't know him yet, and he is a sensitive horse, and I made some adjustments right before I showed, and I didn't really know how to prepare him, and he wasn't bad by any means, but we had a major penalty. We slid in a slowdown, like a major penalty. I put him in a snaffle, and he was very broke by that time. I very much could have shown him one-handed in a bridle, but that for that fraternity, you're allowed to show them two-handed in a snaffle. And my feeling was that, I knew how much money was on the line, and I thought, well, I can show him two hands and I can kind of cover, some stuff up if I need to or help him someplace. And, I really just didn't need to change anything. Like we were kind of going on a good path as we were. We didn't need to change anything. And so this is part where I'd like to give credit to like the owners and just say that like this is where having great owners really, really comes into play because a lot of times, especially when you have a horse that everybody knows is that nice, you've been offered a lot of money for him. He goes in the first time and it doesn't go like you expect. A lot of people would jump ship. Like they would say, "Yep, I'll take the money." I mean, we got several texts right when we came out of the pen of like, "Hey, is he
okay.
for sale now? Can we buy him?" And, my owners, Peter and Courtney Morgan, I mean, they're just amazing people. And they knew that it was really important to us to keep that horse. And they said, they never even questioned it. They said, nope, like, I'm glad this happened now. And now you
Yeah.
know what to do. Like, go figure him out, figure out what you need to do. Like, this wasn't, the fraternity, this is why we do this, and they understood, and that's really I wish other owners would, like, take that lesson because they're babies, and it's their first time or their second time, and we don't know them, like, that's the whole purpose of doing those first couple shows is to understand how to get those horses ready, and a lot of times they put so much pressure on a baby 3-year-old, their very first time out. It's hard when there's a lot of money and realistically there's a lot of money being spent to even enter that class, but you have to take that away and say the horse doesn't know how much money you paid to enter him. Like we got to make sure that we keep in mind of like the entire journey of the horse's career. So anyway, they were amazing. I mean, they were hands down a huge part in that horse's success. I mean, they were as good as an owner could be.
Yeah, and I think that just says a lot too about their respect for the horse's longevity and being
Mhm.
able to set him up for success for multiple years because, you guys can derby till you're 7 years old now. So you can
Yeah.
get a lot of showing. And there's so many big money added derby classes that just missing that one, you still have so much
Yeah.
potential at quality horse like that.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to Elevate Your Ride. We're so excited to continue helping you elevate your performance in the saddle. To keep bringing you quality content and information, we're asking you to help us. Tell your friends about us on our podcast, like and share a meaningful quote you saw on our social media, write us a review on Spotify or Facebook. You can also join our Facebook group and ask all your health and fitness questions, or maybe post a success story to motivate another amateur. Your engagement really helps us support and encourage the equestrian community. We're also inviting sponsors and supporters to help us build our show. As a sponsor, starting at just $150, you'll receive marketing on our podcast, website, and growing social media platforms for your business. It's the perfect way to connect with the equestrian community and showcase your brand to our dedicated listeners. And for our supporters, your $50 contribution gets you a shout out on our social media and website. Every bit of support really helps fuel the show and helps us inspire and motivate equestrians. So, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can scroll down to the show notes of this episode and look for the Become a Supporter or Become a Sponsor links and click on those to get some more information. Thank you for listening. We can't wait to continue expanding our platform and helping you elevate your ride.
That horse was we felt he was special, and I said, "You know what? Like, I don't know when it's gonna be. I think this horse has, like, a really big run in him. I mean, I think he's that kind of horse. I've never had a horse like him." And, they trusted us. So anyway, after that show, I took him to a weekend show. Like, we got home, we spent about a week and a half, 2 weeks at home, and we really we just went through everything we needed to go through. And then I went to, because you find some things like, oh, this wasn't as broke as I thought this was, or this wasn't, I thought I had this really solid, but it's not. And that horse, it's so easy for him to have a good ride. Most of his days are good. Like, he doesn't do anything wrong. And so it's very easy just to ride him around and pet him on the neck all the time and say, "Oh, you're doing great," and not see holes in your training that you need to go through. And so that happened, and I was able to find that and work on it. And we went to a little show in Waco. Just me. I took one of my assistants with me, and we took like 3 horses down there. And I get up at 4, and I was the only one in the arena with him, and I spent, like, the whole weekend, with him, and I took him in multiple times in the pen and just figured out, okay, what does he need? Like, how do we need to what does this horse need? And one thing I figured out, like, he's not a horse that you need to over lunge and leave him tied up or put earplugs in. Like, he's not a horse that needs that. He's going to be there, but he's a very intelligent horse. I just needed to trust him in that aspect. And so I took him in, there was a Futurity there on Saturday. I took him in, and I just cruised him through quiet, and he marked a 147.5, and he won the Futurity. And so that gave me some confidence. Like, I was like, okay,
Wow.
after this, I got him figured out. Like, we got each other figured out. We're good. And so the next show was the Congress, which was 2 weeks after that. And I felt really good going into that show. But we got to that show, and that show was honestly, it was super stressful for us. We had a lot of other things going on. We had, unfortunately, like, one of our best Derby horses that I absolutely loved. We brought him to the horse show, and the second day there, he colicked and he ended up dying. Like, they had to put him down at the show, and it was like, yeah, it was like it was an
Oh,
emotional,
wow. I'm
absolute
sorry.
roller coaster. And I still took Tiago. He was super good in the first go. He was a 19, and I just cruised him through, and that gave me a lot of confidence because, again, I went in there and he was just as honest as could be. He was great. We made 4 horses back to the level 4 to the finals at the Congress.
That's a
And
lot.
yeah, we did. I mean, and each one of them were nice horses. And, we went into the finals, all the horses were good, and all the horses had something happen. Like, one of them fell out of lead, one of them had a 1 point overspin. And, Tiago, I was coming into my slowdown on the right circle and he just got a little straight and I took my inside leg off, a little more aggressively than I should have, and he slid in the slowdown. 2 point penalty, and he was great. He would have placed really high, if that hadn't happened. So, again, I come out and I'm bummed. I'm happy that he was so good, but and again, my owners were just there. Like Peter and Courtney were there. They were like, he looked great, he looked awesome. I'm so glad that happened here. Now we know. Like they were so supportive. And God, that's just so hard to find. It's just, I'd like to think that your owners wouldn't be upset over, that stuff happens in showing. But, they were just like, he looked so good. You did great. We know about that now. So like, let's go work on it before the futurity. And that's what we did. Yeah. I took him to the Southwest and I schooled him. And then I kind of, after the Southwest, we had about 3.5 weeks. And so I kind of sat down and I made like a plan in my head of like, okay, this is what we're going to do between now and then to make this work. So I kind of put a little bit more pressure on him those 2 weeks right after the Southwest Futurity. I really kind of ramped him up. I asked him for a lot. And him being a very reactive horse, I knew I was going to have to do that at some point. I felt that if I had to do that at the horse show, I was going to get him a little too nervous and, he wasn't going to be relaxed. And so my plan was I'm going to do this now. And then I have about a week to go back and just like chill him out, calm him down. And then when we get to the futurity, like we'll be about where we need to be. So my husband got on him a little bit, tuned up a couple things. And about a week before the futurity, I was like, okay, like he was definitely very kind of amped up at that point. And I was like, all right, well, we need to just calm down a little. I rode him without spurs and a hackamore for a couple days. I just did a lot of just being his friend. And by the time we got to the futurity, he was in a great place mentally. So my goal throughout the futurity was just like, it's a long show. It's a long 2 weeks, was just to keep him in that mental space. And he was wonderful. Like it was perfect.
That's so cool that you were able to get you and him in the right headspace. How much do you think that impacts your performance when you go and show?
Oh, I mean, I think that's everything. The reining horses are so good now. Like there's so many of them that are capable physically of doing amazing things and making big runs. I think a much larger percentage of your success is based on where they are mentally. Like just talking about the horse, the rider's a whole nother thing too. But from the horse's standpoint, you need to know that's an individual horse kind of thing. Like you need to know what your horse is. And one thing I learned and that's helped me a lot, especially in preparing at those longer shows, is you have to know like you're gonna have a bad day or you're gonna have a ride that doesn't go great. You need to be able to plan that. If you don't tackle things that need to be tackled on your terms, they're probably gonna show up the day you have to show. So I would make a plan like between the three goes of like, okay, about 2 days before, I'm going to kind of tackle the things that I need to tackle. And, if I need to work on something, that's when I'm going to do it because then I have a day to bring him back down and make him relax. Some horses, you might be okay to do that the night before. Some horses, you might have to do that days in advance. But my plan throughout the show was based on knowing when I was going to show. I was going to bring him up a little bit. And then, the day before or the morning of, I was going to kind of bring him back down a little bit and, maybe ride him without my spurs or just lope him around or take all the pressure off. The day of the finals, we had a great ride the night before. Like he was great. And again, well, I'll touch on that in a second, but he was great. And then the morning of, I took him over to barn 6 and I just loped him around without any spurs, made him super relaxed. Like that was my goal, just having him super relaxed. But another important thing on the horse side, I mean, is confidence. There's times where you need to go and you need to remind the horse, especially in reining, to remember who's driving the show. Like in terms of like if they need to be reminded to like pay attention to you and listen to you. But having your horse be confident is 90% of the game. So, for instance, the night before the finals, I knew the ground was a little tricky. I could see, I would watch for a couple hours and I saw that, some other horses were kind of losing some confidence because they didn't believe they could do it. If a horse doesn't believe that they can do it, they can't do their best. So my goal was like, okay, I'm going to work on my stop, but I'm just going to try not to take his confidence away. So that's what I did. I didn't overstop him a ton. I worked on the rundown and then I stopped him a little bit. And then, that horse really didn't miss a stop the entire horse show. But I think one time the night before I showed him, he hit what was clearly like a bad spot and just came out a little. Not bad. I didn't get after him for it. I just pretended like it didn't happen. I, pet on him, went and did it again, and he was great. Instead of making the most out of something that really wasn't a deal, I just tried to make sure he believed that he could do it and then put him up.
Yeah, and it sounds like you guys really instilled that from the very beginning when you said that you worked on his confidence, and it sounds like he probably learned to really trust you guys. So then when you did have to call on him or reprimand him for something, that respect and confidence was already there. So then he was like, "Okay, yes, ma'am, I can do that for you." And that's really, really cool that you were willing to take the time to do all of that because it does take time and trust in the process. And it's easy, I'm sure, to get frustrated and say, "Oh, this just isn't worth it." But that says a lot about you guys for being willing to put the time in to build that confidence.
Yeah, and I think an important point, like, especially dealing with a stud, and a horse like that, like, you might have to reprimand them or whatever at a time or 2, but they have to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
Like, they have to know hands down, "Okay, if I do this, she's gonna leave me alone." And they have to believe that, and they have to be very confident in that because otherwise, you're gonna get them angry, you're gonna get them frustrated, they're gonna shut down. What you can't do, like, you can't just pet on them all the time and never ever tell them to do anything wrong because that's a recipe for disaster, and that's a little bit of what happened with the first time I showed him in Tulsa, but they have to know, "Okay, I'm gonna be very fair with you." Like,
Yeah.
if I have to get into you, if I have to, correct you for something, like, you know that if you do it right, there's a solution here, there's a way out, and especially intelligent ones, like, especially ones that are really, really smart, like, they catch on to that really, really quick.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your strategy between the first run, your semis run, and your finals run, because you came out with a huge score and everybody, I think, kind of thought, okay, this is one to watch. I know that when I saw it pop up on my Facebook feed, I was like, ooh, Casey's got a great one this year. Like, I'm going to have to check that
Yeah.
out. So, how did you kind of, number one, get excited about it, but then also be like, okay, we still have a long road ahead of us? What did you do there?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, when I went in the first go, my goal was I knew I had a lot of horse under me, and the thing with that horse especially is he's an overachiever. He tries really, really hard. And so I was just trying to get kinda centered before I showed him, and I was talking to another trainer when he said, "Yeah, he's such an intense horse, like, he'll give you so much," and he said, "I've had a horse like that before, and if I just asked him for about 50%, they'd always give me more than what I asked for. If I asked them for everything, then they'd give me too much." And so I just went in and I just decided that I would try to, just ask him for half of what he could do. And it worked. Like, our first pattern, it just went really well. Like, it was really smooth. I didn't have to run him super crazy hard. I didn't have to ask him for everything, but that horse is so physical and so capable that, like, he can do a lot without doing a lot. So anyway, after my first go and, we were 224, which I was super happy about. I knew that put us in a really good place to make the finals. I had a lot of people come up to me then and were like, "You have a horse, he could win the Futurity. Like, that's a really great horse." And I kind of was like, "Well."
Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pen anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and I'm here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride. Did that give you the pressure?
It did for a minute. Like, there was about a day or 2 where I was like, "Oh dear," like, "Oh god," like, "He can, I hope I don't mess this up." And then I had to kinda remind myself, like, I just took all that away. I had somebody else tell me, "You gotta, like, take out all the noise. You do what you know you need to do on that horse. Do not listen to anybody else. Do what you need to do." It was so cool that, like, people were nice enough to come up and say that and stuff, but I also then just tried to be like, "Well, that's great, but, I know how hard that is, and we're just gonna try to do, like, the best we can." And I honestly probably felt the most pressure the night before the semifinals, like, trying to make the semifinals. I think that was when I was the most nervous the whole week was, like, the day of the semifinals because I knew, like, realistically, numbers wise, I didn't have to do fantastic to make the finals. I think I had to be like a 2:15.5, and I would have made the finals, which when you can do what that horse can do, you have room to make even some mistakes. But I told myself, I'm like, just don't make any mistakes. And you can't go in there either and like say, okay, I'm just gonna lope through and not run because if you do make a mistake, you need to have enough there to be able to make up for it. So I had told myself, okay, just don't mess up. Well, in the I had done a lot of steering on my right circle. I'd had another horse that had leaned pretty hard in my right circle and like deviated from the pattern a little bit there. And so I practiced my lead changes on Tiago like Friday night and Saturday night, and they were great. But then after that, I didn't want him to think about it. I didn't want him anticipating the lead change, where he might change leads through the middle when I didn't ask him to. So I did a lot of steering and saying like, nope, stay hooked, stay hooked, stay hooked. Well, when I went into show, he was really good. And then I went to change leads on my right circle and he's so sensitive. You don't have to ask him a lot. So I just barely asked and he didn't change. And I remember, oh crap, and then as soon as I realized it a second later, I put my leg on and he changed,
Yeah.
thankfully. But I literally think everybody about fainted, including myself. Like, because that's a 1 point penalty. All the judges, they all got me for 1 point penalty and they all zeroed my right circle. So that's you essentially lost a point and a half per judge, which is 4.5 points, really.
Whew.
Yeah, so that's a lot. But I knew, like, I was like, "Okay, well, I know, we can run and stop." I'm like, "Alright, bud, we gotta go run and stop now." And we did. He ran and stopped great, like, 3 times. I think 2 of them were +1s, 1 was a +1/2, and we marked a 2:18.5, which was enough to get us back. I wasn't thrilled because I was like, "Crap, I can't believe I did that," but, we made it back, which is what we needed to do. And he was amazing that he is enough horse to be able to, like, overcome a penalty and still make it back to the fraternity finals. But after I knew we made it, I felt very relieved. And I think the pressure a little bit then was off in the sense like, okay, we made it. Like we're there. We're in the level 4 finals. I gave him Wednesday off. Thursday was the draw party. And at the beginning, they have the riders with multiple horses come back and draw first. And all those late draws were gone by the time I got to draw. So, like, 20, I think 26 through 33 were all gone. There was a bunch of, like 1 was left, 2 was left, 4 was left, like, there was a lot of those numbers left, and I just knew, like, I was like, "I'm not very lucky," like, I just know I'm gonna pick draw 1, and I was just certain that I was not gonna get a good draw, and, um, and I picked 24, and I was just like, "Oh, thank," that was the most relief I felt, like, the whole thing. Like, then it was like, "Okay, we're good now," and I went back to the table with Peter and Courtney and Jack, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm good now, like, we're good to go." And literally that's how I felt, like, the rest of the last 2 days, I just felt like, "Yep, we're good to go now," like, it's not that I, like, expected to win, but I just felt like everything's lining up.
Yeah, that is so cool. And then you were able to go and show off everything that he could do. So
Yeah.
during those 2 days that you had off, did you do anything to, like, physically reset yourself? Because the fraternity is so long. I mean, those
Oh
hours and the night
gosh,
rides.
yeah. I wish I could tell you I did, but honestly, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday were absolutely crazy. I mean, we had other stuff going on, like we were trying to sell horses. We had so many people come by the stalls, which was lovely. Like I love to see everybody, but it was just nonstop. And Thursday was the fraternity sale. So, we were looking at yearlings. And that's kind of one of those things in this business. You always have to be looking ahead, always have to be thinking ahead. And so I let him have Wednesday off. Thursday morning, right after the drop party, we rode, and it was great because it was just me, Jack, and Andrea Fapani were in there,
Yeah.
and Cade McCutcheon came in a little later, and I got to have like a great ride. I just worked on my circles a little bit. I went around the ends quiet, like I did just what I wanted. I got to work out a little bit, where how I was going to hit my middle and my right circle. So I felt really good. He was perfect. Peter and Courtney watched. It was great. So then we went to the horse sale, and then I got up and I rode him. We rode, I'm trying to think. We rode late, late that night, like around like 11 or 1, something like that. And again, he was good. I just worked on my rundown a lot. And then, yeah, we waited until Friday night. I really didn't override him between the semis and the finals. Which he's a horse that he's not a hot horse, but he was very fit. He had energy. So I was kind of trying to make sure I didn't have him too fresh, especially with everything going on. But I know how long that is. And he's a horse, he likes to sleep a lot at the horse shows. And rode him on Friday night. And yeah, we just had a really good ride. Like we did everything we needed to do, felt like we worked on everything. He was in a great place mentally. It just kind of went like it should have.
Yeah. So when you had all those busy days, how were you able to kind of compartmentalize it all and focus on him whenever you stepped on his back?
I think when you have a horse that you like love so much and you know really well, you get on and you just feel like it's like home. Like that was like my safe space. It's kind of cliche, I guess. When it was like so much going on, it was so busy. I was trying to pay attention to everybody, but when I was on him, like no one was talking to me. Like it was just me and him. It was my like good time. And so it just felt like a reward every time I got to get on him. And I just felt like I got on him and I just walk around and I'd be like, okay, like this is our plan today. This is what we're doing, and just really get to take my time and spend it. And I treated the fraternity like my time with him was sacred. When I'm on him, that's it. That's what I'm focused on. Everything else I get to deal with, I'll deal with later. My team was amazing, I will say for that. Our crew, I mean, they worked really hard to make sure that we were just focused on showing. They took a lot of the stress, a lot of the other things that were going on. You're still trying to manage a business. You still got horses at home, vets, all this stuff going on. And they really like took everything and ran it through them and tried to make sure that we didn't have to deal with anything that we absolutely didn't have to deal with. I mean, that is a lot of it. We obviously were dealing with talking to customers, talking to people, but they were trying to handle everything of the logistics that they could handle, check with me and then handle it. So that helped a lot. But I mean, just again, having the feeling of like when I got on him, like this is like my time. And it just made the rides like nice.
So that's something that we talk about quite a bit on this podcast is that you have to have a community and you have to have help.
Yeah.
You can't do it on your own. You have to find a really strong group of people to support you and do the things that you don't have time for so you can focus on the most important things, which is obviously going and showing the horse. Like at the end of the day, that's what you're there to do. That's your job. That's what you need to be focusing on. And that can be really hard when there's a lot of little
Yeah.
distractions going on. So, I have another
Yeah.
question for you. What was your preparation like for this show for yourself? Like, do you work on like your mental or physical game? Were there any challenges about yourself that you had to overcome for this fraternity?
We truly like we had so much going on. We have a lot going on in our business, like the last couple months, a lot of like good things, but like new things, big things, a lot of adulting stuff, just a lot of stuff going on that throughout the fraternity season we were having to deal with. So, that was a challenge. I mean, truly I have to say like me having Jack as like my partner and stuff. I mean, we're both kind of in it all together. We can kind of lean on each other. I mean, that's a big part of it, but I just really tried if I feel like I've covered every single base that needs to be covered, like if I feel like I've thought of everything, then I feel confident. So like even and the things like people don't realize or you don't think about, like, you're going to a horse show, especially the fraternity. You gotta think about, ordering your stalls, ordering your shavings, ordering your stall mats, making sure who's going. Are the logistics right, like, of hauling the horses there? Are all the customers good? Have you done your billing? Have you done the horses gone to the vets? Do you have track of the meds records? I mean, everything. I mean, there's so much other than showing that goes into going to a horse show, especially one that's that big. When you're gonna get there, we move in like at like 2 in the morning. So is everybody gonna be dead tired the day that you get there? And then, you're gonna be tired for the whole week. Like, how is everybody gonna sleep? Like, it's just a lot. So I tried to ahead of time, I tried to have all that stuff covered, like have all that stuff done. So I didn't really need to like once I got to the fraternity, like that was that. Like that's what I was focused on. We brought a bunch of, we brought 2-year-olds up there to sell. So that's another layer to it of things that you're kind of concerned about and thinking about. And I mean, I just try to keep, make sure that I've handled all of that stuff. And that kind of gives me like freedom to get in a better mental state before showing and stuff. So that's kind of my big key. Again, like our team plays a huge role in that. And that's changed. I've noticed that that's helped. Like, talk about helping mentally. So, like, I mean, when Jack and I first started our business, I mean, we did everything. We clean, we go to the horse show with 15 horses, just the 2 of us, and we'd be setting up. We'd be, we're doing the stalls, we're grooming the horses, we're trying to lunge, we're trying to talk to the customers, we're trying to do everything. And in the beginning, that's what you have to do. But I mean, it was really hard mentally to like get in a spot where, we get ourselves so drained and so tired that, I've shown before where I like literally couldn't see straight because I was so tired. I get
Wow.
migraines really bad, like really bad. So, and anytime, you don't sleep good and you're stressed, you know, triggers for the migraines. So horse shows are, lovely triggers for that. So I like, all right, make sure I have my migraine medicine, like make sure I have all that stuff. But just trying to like let my team delegate, especially like our assistant Taylor Herring, like she's been amazing because she's been with us for a little while now, but she's taken on a lot of the roles that like I used to have to do and letting her trusting her to handle a lot of that stuff has been amazing for me. Like this year it was a whole new thing for me because I just felt like, okay, I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to be the one. And I'm a person I don't like just like being that boss that, like just shows up and grabs the reins and goes and rides the horse and you're done. Like I'm not too good to do anything. I'm happy to groom the horse. I'm happy to, after we won the fraternity, like I cleaned my horse's stall that night. Just I'm not above doing anything and I've never been that way. I don't like, I respect people who are successful that aren't too good to do anything, but allowing them to kind of like take a little bit of that stuff off me was totally a game changer mentally.
Hi, everyone. It's your personal trainer, Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopindowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Just in any business, right? If you can allow some of those, I'm not going to say it's a smaller task because that is so
Yeah.
important, the care and to make sure that everything is taken care of. but the things that maybe somebody else could do
Yeah.
just as well as you, it's really nice to be able to delegate that to them.
Yeah.
So good for you for seeing the value in that and finding it.
Yeah, finally. It's taken me a while to do, but no, it's definitely worth it. And I just tried to, like, especially this time, I really tried not to put too much pressure on myself. I mean, again, my owners were great with that because, they weren't over my shoulder saying, "Hey, we can win the Futurity. We're going to win the Futurity, right?" Like, this horse can win the Futurity. I mean, owners have to know, like, generally, especially with us, like, there is nobody that's going to put more pressure on me than me. I mean, and I'm like the queen of that. I mean, I will trust me, like, I have worried about every single situation. I have been up at night thinking about every little thing. I mean, I have stressed to death. Like, there's no one that's gonna put more stress on you than you, and so sometimes, people are excited and that's great, but, like, I can't, like, overemphasize this fact that, like, they did not put any pressure on me. They were wonderful, and I promise that helped me mentally so much because I truly didn't feel that pressure from them. I was like, "You know what?" Like, obviously, I mean, I wanted to do good more than anybody. I mean, I wanted to do good for them more than anybody, but we have a good relationship. They know us enough. They knew that it didn't need to be said, and that's what was great.
Why do you think you won this year?
Well, I think God had a little bit to do with it, to be honest. It kind of has to be fate a little. I maybe I'm weird for saying that, but I think it has to be your fate a little. I mean, the things really just have to align. We certainly had a phenomenal horse. I mean, there were some really great 3-year-olds this year. I think this group as a whole is one of the best that reining has ever seen. There are several super, super horses. I think this horse was absolutely, if not, I mean, evidently he was the best that night. He's certainly the best or one of the best of that group. And, that's saying something. I mean, the fact that he could do, I think what made that run so cool was that he could do it so dynamic and yet it flows so effortlessly. It was like a figure skating routine. Like, it was just so beautiful yet exciting. And that's what's so hard to attain. I mean, that's entirely, that horse being as good as he is. But it felt like everything just kind of lined up the way it was supposed to. I mean, the community was kind of behind us. That was great. The judging was great. I mean, it just like lined up. It was so cool.
Yeah. So you had probably a little over an hour of raining left after you went, right?
I had, so I was 24. And there was some really good people after me because when I came out, everybody's like, "You did it, you did it." And I'm like, "Guys, no, there's still like 9 horses left after me and good horses." Like, I mean, everyone in the finals is good.
Yeah. How did you handle that pressure of waiting and each run as the horse went through and then waiting to hear how they marked? What did you do during that?
I'm a little like, not that I'm a glass half empty person, but I just like to be prepared for any outcomes. When I came out, they're like, "You won the fraternity." I'm like, "No, I'd be thrilled if I won the level 3. I'd be thrilled to be in the top 3. I mean, this would be amazing." In my mind, I'm freaking out because I'm like, "Oh my God, I could actually win the fraternity," but I'm not going to let myself fully buy into that because, Andrea still had to go, Casey still had to go, Cade still had to go, Trevor still had to go, Lucas still had to go.
Man,
A
Like,
lot of top
lot.
riders.
there were all these really good riders that, I mean, they're extremely skilled. In fact, actually, Brian Bell, he won the fraternity last year. He was awesome. He came up to us, he gave us a big hug, and he was walking. We started walking that horse around. He actually said to Jack, "You probably need to start walking him in case you have to run off." And I'm like, "Oh my God, like, run
Yeah.
off? Like, what are we even talking about?" So Jack started hand walking him. Brian's hand walking with him. You're just swarmed by people. We eventually go back to the stalls. We put him in a stall, let him go to the bathroom, gave him a drink of water. And I said, "Well, let's like laser, like we have a laser that we use on him." I said, "Well, let's laser
Yeah.
him, while he's sitting here and like try to, make him
Be
feel good."
productive.
and I couldn't watch. There was a big TV in front of our stalls. Our stalls were right outside the warm up pen, so we can see everybody warming up. We can see the screen. My team is down with my horse in front of one of their phones watching, and my family and the customers are at the front watching, and I'm in the middle just
So
pacing back and forth.
stressful.
Like, I was like, I can't watch. Like, I'm not
I'm, like,
watching.
getting stressed listening to you talk about this.
Me too.
Yeah. I was like, "Brian," I was like, "You have to be here." He's like, "You're fine, you're fine." And I was like, "No, I'm not fine. Like, do you see all those people out there?" Like, "No, I'm not fine." Like, and then I just kept saying, like, "I'd be happy with second. Like, second would be great. That would be amazing." And he's like, "You're fine." And, he stayed with us. Gunny Masson came over and he hung out with us. And I didn't watch, but, I could kind of watch everybody's face and see what was happening. And, when the last score came out, it was like mayhem. Like, it was like literally the minute that score rang out, it was absolute chaos.
Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats, we have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends.
Yeah,
Wow.
tell us more about that exact moment.
Oh my god. So, I mean, I walked to the front, they heard Trevor's score, everybody starts like, this sounds bad, but they were cheering.
Yeah.
Um, and people start coming up and hugging me. I was started crying. Dwayne
Oh.
Latimer came and gave me a big hug. I'm
Oh.
crying. I look at Courtney. She's crying. We're both crying. We're hugging. And all of a sudden, Cheryl Cody comes up and Kathy Gould come up and they grab me and they're like, "We got to go to the sports desk." And I'm like, I'm looking back, they're pulling me away. And I'm looking back at my horse as they're like pulling us away. We're walking around the warm up pen to go to the sports desk, and people were just grabbing. I would see people, I give them a hug, and everybody's crying and pulling me. I saw, Craig and Ginger, they gave me a big hug. They were awesome. I saw Casey Deary, he gives me a big hug. And we make it to the sports desk. And by the time I get there, I'm just kind of like, what is going on? Like, I was so unprepared to answer any questions, to be
Oh,
honest with you. I
I bet
don't,
it was kind of like an out of body experience.
it
Like,
was like, I
yeah.
don't know how that interview went, but I was just like, I wasn't there for any of it. Like, I was just like, is this really happening? Like, people were just swarming and they give me hugs. And I'm just like, I was in a complete daze. So we did the interview and then Cheryl comes up, they try to grab me and they said, "We got to get you on your horse. We got to get you on the horse for the awards." And they've got all the other winners, are there on the horses. And I go into the warm up pen and it is just swamped with people, like caked with people. And all these people, and I love them for doing this because it was amazing. I'm just so glad everybody that was happy for us. But like, people would be grabbing me and be like, they wanted a picture, and this person grabbed me to take a picture, and this
That's
person.
a lot.
Oh, and I was literally being pulled like right in the middle of the warm pen, like pulled around like a rag doll. And, I'm trying to in the meantime, I'm like, "Where am I supposed to go?" Like, I'm trying to look for my horse, and Kelsey Price walks up to me, and she, like, grabs me by my shoulders away from somebody, and she says, "You look lost." And I'm like, "Yes." And she turns me around, and she kinda leads me this way. She's like, "This is your husband. This is your horse."
Oh.
Like, gives me a hug. Like, she was so sweet. And then I was like, I literally can't describe for you, the minute I found my horse, I gave him a hug, and I was just, like, started crying, and I was like, "Oh my god,"
Oh.
it felt like home. Like, I was like, "Oh my god, here he is." And, I got to, like, hug him for a minute, and, I hadn't seen him really since, the whole thing. And so I get on him, and Jack actually starts leading me like a pony, out through the alley. I'm trying to hug people as I'm on my horse and I'm being led away. And it's just like
Well,
the
that's a lot for your
craziest thing.
horse too,
Oh, and
especially
he
a
was
young
amazing.
horse.
He was so amazing. Like he was literally, and that horse, he does love people and he does love,
That
like, he's
helps.
not a pushy horse by any means, but he was so calm and kind through that whole deal. We go down through the chute and it's just packed. I mean, like, you can't walk. It's packed. They're
Wow.
trying to organize people. We go to the front and I mean, I've dreamed for like ever about getting to Run for the Roses. I mean, like, I've listened to that song and like teared up thinking about like, well, will I ever get to experience that, And I've been fortunate to see both of my bosses when I was working for them. It's an amazing feeling to be on that team, to be on the winning team, but never really knowing if you were going to get to do it. And, Cheryl's like, okay, it's your time. And I'm like, what do I do? I'm thinking, I'm like, oh gosh, this feels like a dream. And, so I loped in and just loped around. I couldn't really think of a ton to do. I just pet my horse most of the time because I was just like, I don't even know. Like, this is crazy. But just, yeah, that was just one of the best moments. There were so many people there. There were people that waited until after, we were in that arena for probably an hour at least, and there were people that waited, till we were done just to visit, get a picture, and, talk to me. And I thought that was really special.
Yeah, that sounds like the coolest experience. I can just imagine it as you were giving us the play-by-play, and wow, I'm just so glad that you got to experience that and share it with all those people and, like, have such an incredible horse to be able to do it aboard.
Yeah, it was, I mean, obviously it's nothing. I don't expect to ever, like, I hope we win the fraternity again. I hope. I mean, I'm not expecting it, but like, I'll never have another experience like that. I mean, that was just amazing.
Yeah. So now, are you giving yourself a little bit of downtime?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I mean, we've definitely come home from the fraternity plenty of times. Like, this is the kind of the month where usually you can kind of like take a break if you're going to. And like, we felt like we needed a vacation before and stuff like that. Like, I think we both were so, we came home pretty energized. Like, we were like, let's go. Like,
Let's do it again.
yeah, like, let's go. We have a really nice group of 2-year-olds, and I did have to spend, like, having to do kinda end of the year, like, business type stuff. I've had to, like, spend some time in the office trying to take care of that kinda stuff, and, like, I mean, I guess this is the best time to do it, but we're starting our yearlings, which is really, I love when we're starting the yearlings and stuff because that's one of our favorite parts. I mean, we love bringing them the whole way on, and so, like, seeing them, it's kinda like Christmas, like, you see what they all are. And so we're starting the yearlings and we're just kind of, it's a little casual, like, definitely like this week, next week, just a little casual. We're not, working crazy hours like we usually do, but
Is it weird to go back to reality after all of that?
it's still taken a while for me to actually believe that it really happened, to actually be like, this did happen, like, right? Like, I mean, that's taken a bit. But, the one thing about like, horse showing and like raining is like the next one's right around the corner. So I mean, that's for me, like, my mentality is I'm like, this is amazing. I'm trying to live in it as much as I can. And I'm not great at that. So I'm really trying to just like enjoy the moment as much as I possibly can because I know how hard it is to come by. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, like, we got to get ready for the next one. Like, the next year's coming. Like, I don't want to just sit and like have it come up and not be ready for it. Like, we have some nice horses at home. Tiago's getting some time off. He got his shoes pulled. He's just, getting to be a horse for a little while until we make our plan for next year.
Yeah. So, what are your sights set on for next year? I see that you were in the top 5 money earners. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna get to go to the American, which will be super exciting. So I won't take Tiago, but we're hoping to go to the Cactus to try to qualify for the Run for a Million. Jack's got a really good mare. I want you to want me. He's probably gonna show her at the Cactus, hopefully. Um, that's a show that we hadn't been to really in a couple years. So yeah, I think that, I mean, NRBC is coming up. I don't know yet if we're gonna show the fireman at the NRBC. I'd like to, obviously, because I mean, he's a great horse, and to have a really good shot but I want to just make sure we do what's best for him. I'd like to show him at the Derby and at the 100X Stakes, but we'll just see where, when he comes back, he's perfectly, he's sound, he's happy when we finish that run. I mean, he honestly felt like he could go do it again. Like, he did not come out of that Futurity. I've had horses come out of the Futurity before that felt like very tired, like they really just needed a reset. He honestly did not feel that way, but I want to make sure he has all the time he needs to, like, fully recover, like, feel great, and just obviously now, set him up for continued success.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a really good plan. And we're excited to be able to follow you next year and see what you achieve again. And I'm glad that you're taking a little bit of time to enjoy the fraternity win because that is a really big deal.
Yeah, it's definitely not something I wanna take too lightly. It's easy for me to just feel pressured, again about the next thing, but I'm trying to, like, for myself, let's just think about this a little bit, like, it happened, live in it a little bit, and then we'll figure everything else out. But we're fortunate to have some, really nice customers and great horses. We always, like I said, we love the 2-year-olds. We love, starting them, bringing them the whole way through, and we have a great set of 2-year-olds. So I think that'll be exciting. We're starting a really good bunch of yearlings now. So yeah, hopefully the future's bright.
Yeah, I think that sounds like it will be.
I'm a big believer in, you can't fail at something if you never give up. And the only time you fail is when you quit trying. So my feeling is to just kind of keep your head down, work hard. Nobody owes you success. You're responsible for your own success. And just keep driving and keep pushing. And, not every day is meant to be amazing. Not every day is great, but it's what you do, in those days that pays off and makes, the success happen.
Well, I was going to ask you, so people listen to this podcast to get inspired by other people who have done really well and achieved their goals. And so I was going to ask you what advice you have for somebody listening to this, but I think you kind of answered it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in, like, I don't like it, when people, I have people that come to think they want to try it or try reining or try being a trainer, and they don't. They either feel like people need to send them horses, or they're owed opportunities, or, you know, Jack and I, like, we built our business really in the beginning on investing in ourselves. I mean, every single bit of money that we had went into buying horses for ourselves. And, now we're at a point where we have great owners and we don't need to own so many horses. But, for years, that's what we did. And if you're not willing to invest in yourself, you really can't ask somebody else to invest in you. And so we just went forward with it, like, there was just no option. I mean, we were just gonna do it. And, my husband told me when we started about almost 5 years ago, and he said, "I have a 5 like, in 5 years, I want us to be where we not, like, fully where we wanna be, but, like, we're gonna be, like, level 4 trainers, like, we're gonna have our business established. We're gonna be there in 5 years." And I was kinda like, "Well, that'd be nice," but and, here we are. So I think if you're that determined and you're that driven, we eat, sleep, and breathe this. We don't take any days off. Like, we're here on Sundays. He shoes all our horses, and I do stuff in the office. So, like, I mean, you have to make some sacrifices, but if you want something that bad, I mean, you'll find a way to make it happen.
Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.